worry so much about what products we're selling because I'm passionate about the process.
Well, and one thing you said the other day is, it helps if your passion is making a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So if your passion is, I don't know, what's a non-monetizable passion? Smurfs.
Smurfs. There you go.
If your passion is Smurfs, Jeff, you might want to move on.
Hey, podcast listener, even if you are alone in your entrepreneurial pursuit, know that today, right now in your earbuds, you are joined by thousands of entrepreneurs all around the globe seeking to do the same thing you are. If you want to know more about this program or this podcast, or want to get barraged by a lot of annoying pop-ups, check out our website, lifestylebusinesspodcast.com.
Yeah, buddy, it's Thursday morning. That means it's time for another Lifestyle Business Podcast. Today I am joined by my comrade, my co-hostess with the mostest, a man who's called Ho Chi Ian around these parts, or affectionately, Uncle Egon. If you guys stick around to the end of the show, we'll share with you a must-read book, a must-download app, plus talk about some of the hottest trends in Asia this year. Speaking of the hottest trends in Asia, how you doing, brother?
Yeah, here we are.
Here we are.
Just landed in Hanoi, checking out the city, going to the cafes. You're drinking Vietnamese coffee, I'm drinking green tea.
Yeah.
Having a good time.
It's good fun. On to the shouts and the news. 5 stars. Brandon says, these guys are the startup gurus. I am addicted to this podcast because they don't waste my time. They deliver highly actionable content on a weekly basis. Booyah! Let's get on to it then. One final call for tropicalmba.com/TMBA. It's a chance for you to see our sales offer at a minimum. See how we constructed a sales letter. It's a chance for you to buy or sign up for the early action list for the next event. I have no idea what part of the sales process we'll be in by Thursday morning because we're doing DC first and early action list first, but who knows? It could be a couple spots left, so go check it out.
Yeah.
All right, today we got a question from Nate. Nate says, I'm looking into a bunch of different niche markets. They look pretty hot, Ian. He says there's about 3,000 to 10,000 searches for all these different niches, and they're not particularly optimized for Google.
Interesting.
That's right. So Nate is smelling some blood in the water, man. But what he wants to know is whether he should build a Shopify store around one particular niche or whether he should build like a Walmart type emporium. This is a cool niche, actually. Okay. It's in the redneck space.
Yes, I love the redneck space. Very familiar with the redneck space. Grew up in the redneck space.
Let me give a caveat here, Nate. Make sure that this is a exact match search and not a broad match because they can be profoundly different. So make sure when you guys are doing keyword research that you're typing in the exact key term phrase and not the broad match.
Okay, so first thing here, Nate, I think it's great that you've gone on and done a little keyword research, but that is just the beginning. I would advise that you really dig in, figure out who the major players are, figure out who's manufacturing these products, how you might be able to manufacture these products, how are you going to get to be the number one distributor. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this besides just figuring out that they're not optimized on Google. I want you to do some research and figure out how you're going to be the guy for this product. Second question I have for you, Nate, is why Shopify? I've been talking to a lot of people lately that are getting off Shopify. There's a lot of different reasons for that. They do take a percentage. Also, Shopify has investors, so it looks to me, based on what I've seen and what people are telling me, is that they might be trying to please their investors a little bit too much and not their customers. So I would look at something like BigCommerce, or we're actually switching over to WordPress from Drupal. So you know what, Nate? I'm not sure what the final word is on Shopify, but we're out. I mean, we've taken our sites off Shopify.
Yeah, and I want to be clear about this. It's not because we're disappointed by Shopify, but in our particular cases, WordPress is working better, and we've seen BigCommerce work pretty well too. So I mean, I don't want to have the hate for Shopify.
Oh, I don't have the hate for Shopify, but I'm not sure. Hey, look, you've got to do like some custom coding and stuff like that. And not everybody's qualified to do that.
I still recommend Shopify though. I mean, it's still good. We haven't used BigCommerce. We got to go in there and dig in. But the cool thing about BigCommerce is a bootstrap company, right? So they're not having these sort of like the venture-backed thing. So anyway, JP from Tropical MBA used BigCommerce and it looked like the bomb.
That's correct.
All right, so your suggestion here is that you're going to go after a specific niche.
Yeah, I would go after a specific niche. You got a bunch of different, I think what he's trying to say is there's a bunch of different products within the same niche. Right. But yes, you should focus on one product at least to start.
Like redneck hat, redneck shirt, redneck boots. So you would set up a BigCommerce store or a WooCommerce store about
trucker hats.
All All right, Jeff asked us a question. He says, I think thanks to you guys, I figured out what my passion is. It's the raw food diet. But then I read another thing that you guys said is you should not pursue your passion.
Here's the problem with us, Jeff, is we're not very consistent.
We're not very consistent, no. Use Shopify. Don't use Shopify. We don't really know.
These are all just options.
These are just options. What would you say to Jeff, man? He's confused by your advice.
Well, yeah. I mean, we have given this advice out before, which is don't make your business your passion. But I think it's all about the process, Jeff. So ultimately, you've got to be in love with the process of business, the process of entrepreneurship, and that's why I don't worry so much about what products we're selling.
Yeah.
Because I'm passionate about the process.
Well, and one thing you said the other day is, it helps if your passion is making a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So if your passion is, I don't know, what's a non-monetizable passion? Smurfs.
Smurfs. There you go.
If your passion is Smurfs, Jeff, you might want to move on. Raw food diet, diet industry, that's not bad. I mean, you can pull something off there. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, the health industry as a whole is growing, I think. So I think you should be able to pull something off there.
All right, quick follow-up before we get to the meat and potatoes. Jeff also asked, how do I get there by day 1,000? We think it takes 1,000 days to grow a business. How can we be sure that we're not just heading towards colossal failure at 1,000?
First thing I would do is fill out a dream line. The second thing I would do is figure out like 5 things you want to accomplish at day 1,000. Whether it's like amount of income, amount of employees, what your company looks like. Figure out what, like, say 5 of those things are, and kind of work backwards. That way, it gives you something on day 500, day 300 to make sure that you're still going to be able to hit.
Right. It's like that dividing math. I take our products, the number of money we need to make, and then just divide it by products. So man, I need to ship 50 products a month in order to even get to where I want to be in life. And then you got to think, well, I don't even have the infrastructure, the processes, or the employees in place to ship 50 products a month. So then you kind of work backwards that way. All right, Jeff, thanks for asking this question. If you guys would like to ask us a question and hear some inconsistent, uneducated answers on them, go to our website, lifestylebusinesspodcast.com. We've got a cool little app there where you can just click on it. I saw this on the AdSense Flippers podcast. It's really cool. You just click this button and boom, you can ask us an audio question. Easy, friggin' cheesy. Today on the meat and potatoes, Ian and I are going to talk about the case for Asia, the inside story of 6 of our favorite Southeast Asian travel destinations. So last year at this time, we were reminded that we did a podcast that went over really well, where we talked about the 5 different countries that we've been in the last 5 weeks.
Yeah, last year, exactly this time, we're actually in Hong Kong.
That's right. So now we're in Hanoi, and what we want to do is sort of give the updated business perspective on some of our favorite destinations that we've been in the last few months. Ready to do this?
I'm ready.
We're going to start with Singapore, a place like that I've just recently become a bit enamored with, okay? A bit pumped. In fact, I gave you a passionate argument about maybe we should set up there. Maybe we should move our business there. In a word, I think Singapore is like going back to college. It's got a little bit of a campus feel to it. This great food. There's sort of it's overpriced, just like college. It's got the world's best airport. Seriously, it's got the best airport I've ever been to. It's got insane travel opportunities. It's the ultimate hub destination, and it's a little bit like Sacramento. It's a place that's lauded for its proximity to other more cool places.
I haven't been to Singapore yet, but you took a trip last year, and so everything I'm learning is through reading or through proxy, through you.
Yeah.
But it does sound interesting. I know it seems like you got to go through Singapore to get anywhere else in Southeast Asia, so it does seem really, really interesting in that way. One thing we're finding is it could make sense for us to base our business in Asia at some kind of hub, some kind of place of gravity. And Singapore is one of these places that seems to be gaining a lot of momentum. I'm reading a lot about how they're becoming like a financial capital of the world.
Yeah, and I think Sovereign Man wrote a few weeks back that Singapore is like the next Silicon Valley or something. I was hearing on some podcasts, it's like once you hear about the scene's too late,
Yeah.
And Singapore just might be one of those places that's like sort of happening right now. There's definitely a ton of startup money there. There's definitely like not enough talent there. So if you wanted to go raise money, Singapore is like the jam right now for sure. There's potential for second citizenship, which is like a really hot topic right now for Americans in particular.
Right.
Singapore would be like a plausible place to emigrate to. And it's freaking awesome food,
So some of the downsides of Singapore, it's very expensive.
Yeah, it's prohibitively expensive in some cases. It's stale. I'd say it's a little bit culturally stale. It's a little bit thin.
You kind of described it as like a version of Las Vegas, not necessarily with the casinos, but just in terms of culture. Would you agree with that? No?
Yeah, like the kind of facade feel of Las Vegas, you know? To me, it's like a Las Vegas mixed with an aspirational Makati, Manila. Like, because it's got like that concrete based like Malay kind of architecture, you know? It's not like a super inspiring place. But again, it's got that kind of college campus feel, like tons of green space, tons of people walking around, lots of young people. Yeah, I mean, it's happening. I think I could see myself in Singapore.
Right, so visually it might not be the most appealing, but it sounds like there's some, you're right, sounds like there's some cool stuff going on.
Speaking of visually appealing, let's talk about China. Number 2. No, come on. Okay, so we went to, we have a whole nother thing about factory visits. We went on some old school, like Dan and Ian back in the day, factory visits.
Yeah, you bailed on me on the second day.
I absolutely bailed.
I was expecting it too. I could see it in your eyes. You're like, dude, I can't go through this. I can't go through this. I gotta go through the hotel. I was like, all right, man, I feel you. I know what you're feeling right now. I understand.
It was awful, man. We were sitting there in some negotiation, and I like flipped open my laptop, and I was just like, I've been in this conversation so many times. I started writing a blog post.
Yeah, I have a little bit more tolerance for that thing.
Well, yeah, you're actually driving these products and doing some amazing stuff. So, I mean, the products that you're producing, you're helping to design, I mean, they're awesome. And it was really good. We got a bunch of cool pictures from the factories and everything. So I had a good time the one day. One day is enough, you know, for me. Anyway, so we went to Shenzhen. We hung out with Matt Kowalik, man. I love Matt. He's so funny, and he's super knowledgeable about China. So we had a really good time in Shenzhen.
Matty is the jam. He speaks the language. He can get around. He's been there for 8 years. He knows a lot about the culture there, and really actually turned. I mean, I've been going to China for 5-6 years, but he actually helped me to understand some things that I didn't know.
So speaking of like sort of the evolving nature of China, I mean, we went into Guangdong province. Is that right?
Something like that.
I mean, it's all the same, but it's just absolutely like it has changed so much in 3 years. It's the story of China. I mean, Shenzhen is like nice. It's much cleaner than it was. Like the roads are amazing. Like it's like nothing, you know, you would imagine.
Yeah, there's like Land Rovers on the road over there now. I mean, there's a serious middle class developing over there, and we see this in our business because wages are increasing, material costs are increasing, things like this. It's getting more expensive in China, for sure, and you can see how the middle class is coming up, and it's quite interesting. I'd love to see it.
It's weird to talk about China as a whole too. I mean, like it's freaking massive, but you know, we just went to one little area. But you know, if you want to go sort of make your way in the world, Shenzhen is a great spot, and definitely meet up with Maddie. Speaking of right outside of Shenzhen, a place that we like, there's sort of these polar opposites. Like when we get on the subway, the MTR to go over to Shenzhen, it's like going to Shenzhen.
Right.
When we get on the opposite way, it's like woo, we're going to Hong Kong. Let's talk about Hong Kong.
Absolutely.
You're absolutely in love with Hong Kong.
Yeah, I'm absolutely in love with Hong Kong. I think it's a first class city, for sure. So we stayed. So this was our second full week in Hong Kong.
So let me if I were to like do the whole how to describe Hong Kong thing for people that weren't there, I would say Hong Kong is like Manhattan, but more beautiful and Asian. Like that to me, I mean, maybe not as kind of awe-inspiring as Manhattan in terms of like the architecture, but the architecture is still really amazing.
It is.
And the backdrop is superior. It's on like this green mountain with a huge bay. I mean, it's nuts. It's like the perfect place to set like a futuristic movie.
Yeah, very cool place visually, but what I like the most about Hong Kong is just I think it's the people. All the people there are beautiful, and everybody is kind of doing the same thing as they're doing in New York. Like everybody's kind of like a banker or something like this, you know. But
there's also like models and artists and real estate developers and like I don't know, it's cool. A lot of people doing artsy stuff, too.
Yeah, I guess they're not that dissimilar to New York City. I guess
a lot of rich people.
Yeah. Part of the reason I like it is because I've been in New York City several more times probably than I have Hong Kong. But anyways, we stayed on the corner of Aberdeen and Hollywood. That's like a hot spot in Central. I recommend Airbnb. Every time I go to Hong Kong, we do Airbnb, and we ended up getting a great place, a 2-bedroom apartment apartment with a living room, fast Wi-Fi, relatively, and I think we paid like $80, $90 a night. So it was like a really affordable way to do Hong Kong, because if you show up to Hong Kong and you like want to stay at the Hyatt, it's like $300.
You are so focused on lifestyle, so let me just pull this back into business, because the real reason to go to Hong Kong, man, is the business. I read an article the other day that 30% of all businesses in the world are based in Hong Kong. I don't know if that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, this place is like business central.
It is business central, and we did do business. So one day, before we got to Hong Kong, we did a little Google searching and looked up some accounting firms. Before we got to Hong Kong, we set up 3 meetings on one day, so it was like boom, boom, boom. Showed up to all these meetings, had a bunch of questions that we were asking these accountants. And,
that's like inside the DC stuff, maybe. It's a little bit sensitive, unfortunately. And I don't want to be coy about it, but definitely stuff about the tax implications of doing business in Hong Kong, how to get credit cards and premier status and all this kind of stuff that we were working with our bankers on. And it's just an amazing business environment. Like the way, I mean, one of the things is a tax transparent area, which means that like you have to have a registered accountant file for you every year, which means that like, you know, you have to like keep all your receipts and all that kind of stuff, which is pretty normal business stuff. I mean, it's not like doing business in the Seychelles or whatever.
Right.
But, you know, it's just so cool talking to the Hong Kong accountants. Like they got your back, man. These guys are like sticking up for you. They're relatively cheap to work with. It's all business, man. It's Hong Kong. I love it.
Yeah, it was a great trip.
Speaking of all business, let's talk about the Philippines, perhaps the most laggardly economy in Southeast Asia, but we're running our events there because it's beautiful, it's fun, it's friendly, and man, we had a good time there the last couple weeks.
Yeah, we're staying down in Puerto Galera. I think that's one of my favorite spots in the Philippines in terms of lifestyle. Not a lot of business going down in the Philippines except for our business.
No.
But so Puerto Galera is super inspiring for me. We stay at our buddy's resort. He just built this brand new resort. It's right on the water. The TMBA is hosted there. They're actually doing some renovations this week. So for the next TMBA, so we're going to have even a more fantastic space to work in. It's right on the beach.
So why would you want to go to the Philippines? I mean, there still is the promise of hiring virtual assistants, any kind of repetitive, man-oriented task where you want to go and pull together 3 or 4 people. There's a lot of tax implications. Like we were talking to a lot of Australians. You know, if you're an Australian or a European and you need to prove a foreign tax zone, why not move to the Philippines and set up in a PESA zone, tax-free, man, pull together 4 or 5 virtual assistants, link builders, content generators, customer service representatives, whatever. You don't have to pay taxes in the Philippines for 6 years. You don't have to pay taxes back home. Boom, chakalaka, man, that's baller. So why else would you want to come to the Philippines? Adventure travel. We had a couple guys at Tropical MBA that were big into kayaking, fishing, scuba diving, snorkeling, running, adventure, all that kind of stuff, mountaineering. The Philippines is the place for you because you can go to these crazy, insane, remote islands and be like, what's up? And they're like, what's up? It's nuts. It's not like going to, you know, friggin' off the map Indonesia or Malaysia where people just stare at you like, what's going on?
Yeah, a lot of people in the Philippines obviously speak English, so it's pretty easy to get around there.
Yeah, they'll be like, hey man, you want to play basketball? You're like, well, yeah, sure. All right, let's move on to the next spot. Vietnam. We're in Vietnam right now. What are we doing here, man?
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. You know, we showed up to Vietnam for a bunch of different reasons. One is because of I love and you love Anthony Bourdain, and he talks about the food in Vietnam all the time.
Yeah, he does.
So that's one reason to come to Vietnam, is the food is just amazing. The other reason that we came to Vietnam is because the Wi-Fi is amazing. This is kind of like a shocker to me, but we tested the other day in our hotel, 10 up, 10 down.
13 down, 10 up. That's like friggin' whatever you want to do speeds. For those of you back west that don't test, that's baller. Like that's not even YouTube. Like that's like run a webinar that's video oriented or whatever. I mean, and so that's really inspiring. When I lived here in 2009, it was like, oh shit. Oh crap, it's 2:30 p.m. Everybody's getting on the internet and now it's crawling. Like, I mean, it would like go out every afternoon. I mean, it was like super bad. And
basically how the Philippines is.
Yeah, and now it's just improved so radically in the last 3 years. It's amazing. Like, it hasn't improved threefold. It's improved way more than that, and it's a game changer. It really is. So let me just inject. So Vietnam, I think it's just one of these infectious places. We're here right now with a lot of people coming here for the first time. It's a very entrepreneurial culture. A lot of the expats here are building things. They're doing stuff. They're part of an NGO. They're part of a startup. They're a writer. There's a lot of cool people here. A lot of amazing food, like you said. It's an inspiring place. all our new buddies coming here, loving Vietnam. Let's contrast that with Bali. Bali, a much more developed place, but the Wi-Fi. Now, I'm a longtime defender of Bali, and I love it, and I stand by it and all this stuff, but there are certain things that you just cannot do in Bali right now. As far as I understand, they're building an internet pipeline, and you will be able to do them within 24 months, but the biggest thing for me, telephone calls, in particular, inbound calls, like when you set up a time with somebody and you're like, we're going to be on the phone at 8 p.m., on our first Tropical MBA webinar, I cut out for 5 minutes, and it's just like, it holds me back from scheduling stuff because I'm anxious about it.
Correct.
And anyway, so I think that we've made this distinction. We'll link to our post about Bali, 7 reasons why digital nomads avoid Bali. And for me, it's like the opportunity to host webinars and to do phone calls with important people and to do podcast interviews and stuff is just too great that I can't risk it on this Bali infrastructure.
Yeah, and like Hanoi, actually, Bali is pretty difficult to get to. Hanoi and Bali, equally kind of difficult to get to.
That's right. They're not exactly hubs. It's kind of like the last leg kind of place, whereas Saigon, much more business-friendly. Hanoi's more artsy, especially in terms of the expat scene, whereas Saigon is much more business.
Right.
So I like a little bit of mix and match, 50-50, man. The Wi-Fi's hot in both spots.
It is.
Speaking of hot, we got one more spot that we are planning on going, man. I can't wait to take you to Cambodia.
Never been.
I think you were born for Cambodia, man. You like the big bikes, you like the cowboy. Maybe you'll pick up smoking again. I don't know.
Oh, man, that would be tragic. But yeah, I'm looking forward to Cambodia. Good roads, right? Russians built the roads there.
Yeah.
We'll be riding around on big bikes, hanging out at hotels and stuff like that. Very cheap. Very affordable. Looking forward to going there.
Again, Cambodia, if you're looking for great beaches, friendly, lots of infrastructure kind of investment stuff happening there. Definitely cowboy country, sort of similar to the Philippines in a lot of ways. Truly beautiful, more exotic, more history there. There's this book called The Gate. If you travel to Cambodia, you absolutely must read it. Cambodia, man, don't come to Southeast Asia without dropping in.
So I'm really interested, next year this time, what countries we're going to be talking about in Southeast Asia. This has been fun.
Yeah, maybe not even Southeast Asia. Who knows? We're talking about doing a little bit of Europe skiing too.
Yeah, and also talking maybe about a little bit of Mexico. We'll have to see.
Oh my Lord. Let's get moving on to just the tips. All right, guys. Have we mentioned Pro HDR on this podcast yet?
Oy vey.
It's only a $2 iPhone app. The part of my iPhone where this app rests, Ian, is the screen is worn out.
Well, here's the thing. I brought you I brought you an iPhone 4, and you've just been taking pictures. I look back, we're walking down the street, I look back and you're like way behind me.
I'm just all over this stuff. I'm so pumped. If you go to the blogs, you're probably going to see like more pictures than words now because I finally have a camera, man. It's awesome. Also, I've been listening to Christopher Hitchens' autobiography, An Unparalleled Mind. I absolutely love this man. His autobiography is called Hitch 22, and I think, by reading this book, you sort of get the insight into a person who takes his ideas seriously, who took his work so seriously, who was very focused on doing his work. And as an entrepreneur, I find that inspiring. So Hitch 22, check out Christopher Hitchens' autobiography.
Booyah. And I want to bring up our main man, Anthony Bourdain, again.
Yeah, buddy.
He talks a lot about...
By the way, he loves Vietnam.
Oh,
he has a house here.
Yeah, that's why I'm so
nutty about
pumped to hear about this guy again, right? So he's got a house here, and before I got to Vietnam, I watched all his videos that he has on YouTube about all the different places where he eats. He talks about Vietnam in his book, Kitchen Confidential. Just a really, really guy that's in love with Vietnam, and every time I think about Vietnam, I think about Anthony Bourdain because he's so passionate about it.
Now, as an entrepreneur, I think this book is actually truly important. Kitchen Confidential. Think about this. If you're looking for inspiration to make a big life change, Christopher Hitchens is one of these guys who's so smart, man. He had it figured out since he was like 22 or whatever.
Right.
But Anthony Bourdain is one of these guys who, when he was like 35 or whatever, he decided that his life sucked and he wanted to change it. And so he sat down and he did this amazing book. He wrote a book about his life, and it was a pretty simple life at that point. And his life did a 180. He went from having gone to like Mexico and like St. Martin one time to traveling the world he just changed his life. He made a decision and you know, he captured the zeitgeist or whatever, something happened. And it's just an awesome story of somebody, you know, at middle age deciding that, you know what, I don't have to be who I was for the last 35, 40 years. I'm going to be somebody new. And boom, he's in Vietnam.
That's why I think Anthony Bourdain, for me, Anthony Bourdain and Adam Carolla, guys like that, working class guys that have like decided to make a change in their life, like really inspiring. You know, they were like on a path that wasn't super, they weren't super happy with, you know.
And vis-a-vis knowledge too, which like sometimes in the working classes, like where we come from, it's not cool to like get in touch with your psychological, you know,
like talk about your feelings and stuff like that.
All right, speaking of feelings, if you're having an awkward moment in Asia, you get invited to karaoke by a business colleague, and you don't know what to sing, Ian and I have found the tune for you. So we're going to play it. Just learn the lyrics, learn the song. If you know this song, my friend, you will be a star at any KTV in the whole of Asia. Thanks for joining us on the LBP. We'll see you guys next Thursday morning. Booyah.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. Don't be shy. We've got a mailing list, lifestylebusinesspodcast.com. Go there, get yourself signed up, and we'll keep you up to date on everything.
Mama, take me home, country road. All my memories gather round her. Mine is lady, stranger to blue water. Dark and dusty, painted on the sky, misty taste of moonshine, teardrops in my eye, country roads, take me home to the place I belong, West Virginia, Mountain Mama, take me home, country roads.
Focus on one product at least
Like
to start.
redneck hat, redneck shirt,
Correct.
redneck boots. So you would set up a BigCommerce store or a WooCommerce store about
Trucker hats.